states, do they help you come up with like things to say when your mind goes blank sometimes, like if you're more calm and relaxed, or is that a separate um thing?
I feel like it comes out naturally, you know?
Naturally, yeah.
Like you don't even like when you're just present, like you don't even have to think about what you're gonna say. It just comes out, and it comes out from this like non-needy place when you're present. It's just like it's a very just natural, just flows. And yeah, you're not like when some guys are on a date, they're in their head and they're thinking, fuck, what do I say next? Like, how can I get this girl? How can I win her over? It's like that's all validation seeking, needy, fucking I need your sex, outcome dependent type of fucking energy. Whereas when you're present and you're flowing, whatever comes out is just whatever comes out with no thought. There's no fucking agenda to what you're saying. It's just like, and to the girl, that just feels like, oh, okay, this guy doesn't give a fuck. He's just saying whatever he wants to say, which is attractive to them. Because the more like neediness is the biggest attraction killer. The more you need their validation and they can feel that, the more they're just fucking repelled.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
So maybe, yeah, like maybe yesterday, the girl maybe would have felt that like a little bit when you're on the date.
Yeah.
She would have been like, fuck, this guy's so attached to like trying to fuck me. And that made her like not want to. But if you were like on that date and you were just like present as fuck, feeling your body, and you were just like, weren't even thinking in your mind, and you were just flowing and you were feeling her and you're feeling fucking turned on by her and shit. And you were just saying whatever flowed up naturally. It's like, that would feel like to her, like, oh, okay, this guy doesn't give a fuck. He's just having a good time, whatever. Yeah, I'll fuck him.
Does that translate well to text as well? Like just the feeling states that you have, or do you that's more, or you need more technical skills for that, or
I feel like, I mean, I personally, from my experiences now, like I feel like whatever energy you're in, girls can feel it subconsciously. Like whatever you're feeling when you text, because I literally believe everything is connected. So I think even if someone's across the world, they still feel you. Um, like, so I think it definitely, yeah, if you're in a good, it's not even good feeling state, but it's just like if you're more so present and just kind of flowing, and you have like often I'll be messaging a girl and I'll get a response from her, and then I'll read it, and instantly something will just come to my mind, and like, and then I'll just send it, and it's just natural. Like I don't think about it. It just flowed out of me because I was like present. Um, but that said, I've still had times where I've been very like I've done a lot of technical fucking texting and it's worked out too. So I think it's good to learn the techniques for sure, but also know that they're gonna feel your energy too when you're texting. I believe,
yeah,
but that no one can prove that with science, that like fucking everything is connected and consciousness exists outside the mind. Like that's a whole other fucking thing.
I was kind of wondering, that's like why sometimes one guy will take a line and it won't work for him, whereas it works for another guy, just because of the energy difference.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I think that with like with everyone, you know what I mean? But if I told them that, they'd think I'm fucking crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make sense to a rational mind, but like I genuinely believe that. I think yeah. So the less needy you are, like the better.
Yeah.
You can literally, like, if you're talking to a girl, you can if you become aware enough, you can literally start to feel the part of you that's like seeking a validation if you're aware enough.
No.
That's why meditation
anywhere in the body, or
not necessarily in a specific spot, but you know, try it out. Like you could be like, I've had times where I've just been like kind of present, and I could feel the part of me that was just present that didn't give a fuck, and then I could also feel the part of me that wanted her validation and wanted her attention. And it's like when you become that aware, you can kind of choose, and you can be like, okay, I'm just going to be present and feeling in my body, and I'm going to let go of like trying to get her essentially in the moment. So like what that could look like, you could have a thought that just comes to your mind like, fuck, what am I going to do next? How am I going to get this girl? Does she like me right now? I don't know. That's the needy part of you. So if you were going to let go of the needy part of you, you'd just be like, you just watch it. You'd be like, that's just the needy part of me. That's like my lower self. I'm just going to like let that voice run, and then you return back to just being present.
So is there like a explanation like why neediness turns off women? Like what's the, I know of course like it sounds like a ridiculous question, but
Yeah, no, for sure. I think from a evolutionary psychology perspective, it's like if you're like back in the tribes, right? They wanted the leaders of the tribes because that's who would protect them the best, who would keep them alive, who would be the best genetics for their children. And those leaders, they never like answered to anyone. They never had to impress anyone. They never had to defer to others in any kind of way. So because of that, it's like the trait of leaders or alpha males of hierarchies in society. That's one of the biggest traits is like, okay, they don't need anything from me. They're not deferring to me because they already feel like they're enough. Like seeking validation is a side effect of feeling inadequate. Because if you felt fully enough and you loved yourself fully, you wouldn't have any need from anything from anyone. You wouldn't have any need for validation. You wouldn't need her approval because you already felt good enough in yourself. And most of the people that enter into pickup, the reason why they get into it is because they don't feel enough, because maybe they had a childhood but they were like socially ostracized. You know, they had parents that were fucking belittling them, whatever, but for whatever reason they believe deeply that they're not good enough. And because they feel like they're not good enough, they try to seek that out through women and through sex, but it's like never ending.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sounds like nice guy syndrome.
Yeah, nice guy syndrome. But the funny thing is, man, you could be externally like the biggest alpha dominant fucking dude ever and still be validation seeking.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever you're present, you're not seeking validation outside of yourself.
Oh.
So if you could just sit there and be like fully present and grounded, and just like thoughts were washing by, and then you got to a point where you barely had any thoughts going on in your mind at all, and you were with a woman, and then whatever came to you, you were just saying, you wouldn't feel needy at all to her. It'd be near impossible to feel needy to her.
What would you say is the reason why like mindset doesn't matter or play into any of this like you said before the recording?
So mind and fear are synonymous.
Mind and what?
So
could you repeat that though?
Mind and fear are synonymous.
Oh, okay.
Connected. So when you're having thoughts about shit, just in general, and you're not present, whatever's going on up here is part of your fear, is part of your neediness, is part of your like lower self. And I just think in the moment, it's like, how can mindset really like what are you gonna do? You're just with a girl and you're just gonna like tell yourself in your head, I'm the shit. Like,
Yeah.
What's that gonna do?
It's like saying,
you know what I mean?
Funny, or
Yeah, and I mean, if the thing is, bro, 90% of our mind is subconscious, right? It's filled with memories of the past. Like every single memory up until now has shaped what we feel in the moment, what thoughts come up in the moment. And so when you tell yourself like, I'm the shit, like your subconscious knows what's up. It knows it's trying to trick itself. So it's just like pop psychology. It's like, yeah. But
Hmm.
you don't actually need to, all that shit in your subconscious, so things like trauma and like having a past where that made you feel inadequate and stuff like that, you don't actually have to heal all that shit necessarily to start being good with women. Like literally, because all that shit in your subconscious, the memories, the shit from the past, that just comes up as thoughts and emotions in the moment. And if you can become aware of your thoughts and emotions and shift your awareness, then they no longer really matter as much. And the fastest way to heal all that shit anyway is by feeling all the emotions associated with all those stories you have in your subconscious mind.
Okay.
Because the feelings are what keeps the story stuck. So if you allow all those feelings to just come up, you make a dedication every day. I'm going to start feeling my body more. I'm going to start welcoming, allowing whatever emotions come up. Let's say you go do some day game, you approach a couple girls, they reject you. Well, now all your stories about not being good enough, maybe you have stories about childhood shit, stories about girls rejecting you in the past, it's all going to come up. And you're also going to feel the emotions that are attached to those stories. But let's say you went home and then you laid on your bed and you're like, okay, I'm going to welcome all these emotions. And then let's say you welcome like a fuck ton of those emotions, those triggers. Suddenly those stories actually become less because you've released the emotions that were attached to them.
Okay.
So I think in a game can be quite simple in a sense. It's just like, just welcome your emotions as much as possible and be as present as in your body as possible, and start trusting your intuition. Like those are the biggest things. You don't need mindset, you don't need trauma counseling, you don't need like any of that shit.
And so, is there any, so is it okay, or well, not okay, but like let's say like suppressing fear, is that like usually a good idea? Like maybe you want to be authentic with a person and say your real traumas, or you're talking about those things. Is it always, um, does it make sense to like suppress that fear? I guess during or when you're discussing those things, those topics with so like fear is like a one of those important like emotions too, like it's part of us too. So like the suppressing them, is that what you like recommending, or is that something, or is it just a misunderstanding?
So I don't think you should suppress anything. So I just believe, quite simply, welcome every single thing you feel, like fully. So welcome the fear as well. I would say with fear, like, bro, you can never get rid of fear. Like the more you try to shove it down, the more you resist it, the bigger and the worse it comes. It's more about the relationship you have with fear. So, for example, someone who steps into a lot of fear consistently can get to a point where they actually enjoy feeling fear. Because really, it's just a sensation in your body, fear, right? Nervousness. That's like literally, there's no difference between nervousness and excitement from a neurological perspective. They've done studies on this. The only difference is how we perceive the two. So that's why I think it's good to just try to welcome fear and to get used to it. And every emotion, the more you can be comfortable with whatever you're feeling, the more unstoppable you become. Because even fear itself is usually fear of feeling certain emotions. Like we're scared of talking to women in the street, right? Why? Because we're scared of feeling the pain of rejection. Well, what if we just became so used to that pain and so okay with that pain that we were no longer scared of feeling that? You know? So I think it's a journey. Like it's a lifelong journey to get to a point where you have acceptance of all your emotions and you just allow them to run free and you're not resisting any of them. And same with thoughts. It's like you're allowing thoughts, but you're not like giving them heaps of reality and you're just seeing them for what they are. They're just fucking empty thoughts. You're not your thoughts. It's like you're the watcher or the observer behind the thoughts.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is there like additional reading about this subject? Like, yeah, like I guess how you think about, you're not the owner of your thoughts. I think I've been thinking over that idea for a while, but I was wondering if is there like a school of thought somewhere with a name on it, like, or
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot. I mean, I try not to give people too much to read. I've done a lot of reading. I try to like simplify everything so they don't have to go and read. I think sometimes that's better because it leads to like less confusion. I think a system that you can look at this all from is like there's two selves, right? There's your lower self and there's your higher self. So your higher self is kind of like the divine part of you, or like the soul, like the spiritual being sort of part of you. And then the higher self is like, I mean, the lower self, sorry, is like kind of like your child self, like all of the fears, the thoughts, the way you've been conditioned, all this other kind of bullshit, even the thoughts of like being inadequate, all this other stuff. It's not like the real you. Another word for it would be ego, but I don't really like using that word. So whenever you're fully present, you're in touch with your higher self. And when you're fully present and your thoughts aren't firing off, you're able to get in touch with a certain intuition.
okay.
Intuition, like just knowing? What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Like it takes a little bit to get in touch with this, but yeah, it can give you a certain intuition. Like you could just be walking down the street and you could be like, okay, I'm gonna turn this way, and you don't even know why. Like you're not thinking, so your body's like carrying itself. Like I'm sure you guys have had times where you're in a club, right?
Yeah.
And you're in what they call a flow state. And like you're just like feeling fucking present as shit. You're not thinking about anything. And just for some reason, everything you say lands. Like have you guys both had that experience?
Isn't that, I think I've heard of that from like RSD. They called
Yeah.
it just state pumping, right?
Nah, state pumping's different. State pumping is when you're is fucking shit. State pumping is when you're trying to like G yourself up and motivate yourself.
Oh,
Flow state is when you're fully present and you're just in your body and shit's just flowing.
I think that's why people like to drink, right? It helps them kind of feel like that. Is that right?
I think it can potentially, but it also numbs them out quite a lot as well.
I think I've only experienced that when I'm like drunk. I don't know. Not really sober.
So one thing you can even do like right now is just kind of like just sit. So like both of you just like close your eyes for a bit. Take some like deep breaths in. And then ask yourself the question, I wonder what thought will be next. So what do you guys feel when you do that?
I felt the mind get quieter.
Yeah, I'm just more in tune with like the sensations in my body. So what
Yeah.
Less thoughts.
When I do it, it's like I can feel like a field of energy around me. It's like I can feel both of your energies like as well while I do it. It just
Oh,
feels like a big fucking like, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so that's something you can do with yourself throughout the day. You can just be like, I wonder what thought will come next. And that can make it really kind of hit for you that you're not your thoughts, that you can just kind of observe your thoughts.
I remember reading a book by Eckhart Tolle, and I think he said that in the book, The Power of Now. I wonder what thoughts would come next.
Yeah, that was where I got it from. But it's a powerful exercise. But yeah, the more in your body you can be, the more present you can be around women, the more attractive you'll become to them. Because, think about who women are attracted to. They're attracted to like fucking athletes, like all these guys that are very in their body connected to feeling. Not to mention, that's what actually creates the masculine and feminine polarity, because the masculine is like still, it's like fucking like it's nothing, whereas the feminine energy is like everything. It's like a fucking chaos. It's like fucking like all over the place. So if you're all over the place energetically, and the girl is, then you're not going to have any polarity. But if you're like very still and very present around a woman, she's going to want to suck your dick. It's just like natural. But yeah. So we'll take a look at some texts, because I know this has been a very far out conversation compared to the usual.